Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
Welcome to another edition of The Proven Path. We can't thank our friends with the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association enough for making this possible. My name is Sean Baligian. I'm flying solo. And you know the coolest part about this? He's probably going to be mad at me before we introduce our guests. But here we're talking about The Proven Path. And you know why my partner's not here today? Because he's watching his kid, a high school hockey alum, play in the OJ. How about that with the Lindsey Buskies? So that's pretty cool. A guy that knows a little bit about producing some players and maybe the path himself. We'll get into that a little bit. You know, I'm fond of using the term the usual suspects, and you watch a team make some noise and then all of a sudden they're one of the usual suspects. And certainly I think this coach and his program are front and center in that regard. He is the head coach of Clarkston. Let's welcome him in, Coach Nathan Bryer. First, Coach, really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. How are you, bud?
Awesome. Thanks for having us on here. And, I know I'll probably get an opportunity to say it at the end, but really appreciative of what you guys do for our sport and high school hockey. And I think it's awesome for the athletes to be a part of the media too. It's teaches them lessons for the guys who do move on. So excited to be here and thanks for having me, but thank you for all the stuff you do for the game as well.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for the kind words. And you know what, I want to start right there. You know, I've been covering this for a while now, and there are the usual suspects, the teams that you know are year in, year out. You know that they're going to be the mix, and then you see a team like yours a few years ago start to make some noise, and you had some fun. We'll get to that as well. But in a couple years, what you guys have done, the players that you've produced, the run that you've made, my goodness gracious, Clarkston is one of the usual suspects now.
Yeah, I think that was our goal all along is not to just make a run here and there, but be a program that can kind of be in that conversation and compete every year. Obviously, you're going to have your good years and you're going to have your years where you don't end up with the outcome that you want when you start. But I think we wanted to build a program that had longevity and a little bit of consistency with the level that we can compete at. And I think we're starting to get there. I think we went through a couple rough years when myself and Coach Larkin took the program over 4.5 years ago now. But we're getting to the point where we're starting to get high-end players come in every year and give us a little bit of consistency in the quality of hockey that we're able to play.
I want to talk about what transpired last March. And obviously the season didn't end the way that you guys wanted. But one of the things that I tell kids all the time, Coach, is the atmosphere is so huge, whether you're playing a home game, whether, you know, you're at various rinks around the state. But when you're at USA Hockey Arena, and that place can't cram in anybody else. I mean, legitimately, it is that packed. And you're on the biggest stage. I always tell kids, you're not going to get that at other places at this age. And again, Coach, I know it didn't end the way that any of you wanted. But in that moment, did you take a second look around and go, this is awesome? I mean, because really, it was one of the most memorable games from last season. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great for our players. It was great for the people that follow our program. It was awesome for our school and our student body to be able to go down there and see what that looks like. And those are the things that I think sell high school hockey, those games. And I know we talked about it before we hopped on here, but even like you think back to a couple years ago, the Heartland and Brighton overtime one,
Mm-hmm.
and they just produce unbelievable atmospheres. That was a great experience. Like you said, obviously we would have liked to come out on the right end of it, but not only for our players, but I think our coaching staff, because we do have a young coaching staff, to to see that and be there and experience it, because that is part of it. And if we're lucky enough to get back there and we still have guys on our roster that have been there, that's a huge learning curve, and dealing with the day and walking into the rink and getting treated like a pro. It's different from what our other 25 games in the season feel like. So it's a great experience, and it's a good learning experience for our team. Obviously we would have liked to win it, but win or lose, it was good for our kids and our coaching staff to experience that.
It really was a culmination, Coach. I'll go ahead and say it, of the hard work that you guys put in, because I think anybody who pays attention to this level, you guys started to make some noise a couple years ago, and it wasn't even a year by year thing. To me, it was you guys giving CC a scare. It was every time I saw you, it was just like, nobody better take this team lightly, because this is a team that has a bunch of quality players. They're playing a quality system, and they're capable of beating anybody. Did some of the guys that were along for the ride a couple of years kind of have that sense of accomplishment, Coach? Because really, I think it's a testament to the hard work that not just you and your staff put in, but some of those young men that, as you mentioned, maybe took some lumps a couple years ago.
Absolutely. It starts with those guys. And, I said it, the first 3 years at our end of the season banquet, it's, no one likes to be the foundation or the building blocks, because sometimes they don't get the experiences that you get when you get to the top of the pyramid, but you need the foundation. And those guys, now 4 years ago, they started that for us. And then 3 years ago, we started to have some success. But the big thing is those guys bought in, right? And
Yep.
I wish all of those players could be on a team that, hopefully one day when we get the job done, you wish they could all experience it. But the reality is you need those guys. And when we do have success, we're able to look back at the building blocks and the things that they did right, and took those lumps a little bit in year one and year two. And, I do believe that in turn, it is the reason we're starting to have success and, get consistency out of our group every night.
Once again, kindly joining us, head coach at Clarkston, Nathan Bryer. Of course, he and the Wolves, I have no problem saying it, one of the usual suspects now, and certainly that's a testament to the hard work he and his staff have put on. I want to talk about one of the other fun things in this level, and we're going to talk about the guys that you moved on, and certainly your background as well. But I remember playing his day, and my goodness gracious, it's a couple years ago now. My buddy John Kidd at State Champs got a video, and we thought it was the funnest, coolest thing. And I think you could correct me, or maybe somebody else will correct me. I think you guys started kind of an internet craze for the last couple of years, but I certainly want to give a shout out to a former player of yours, Lemker, for the fired up lineup read in the locker room before the game. And it was funny because it was one of those things, Coach. I know you're busy with your life and everything. It seemed like every week another team was kind of doing that. Tell us about how that came about and how it brought that group together.
So we had been doing that for 2 years before it kind of popped on everyone's radar. And it was just something that we did in the locker room. And I think it's all part of, again, letting the kids kind of be themselves and show personality. And Ryan Lemker was a guy that I think he wished he would have been eligible to play for us in his junior year. And he was a guy that we knew was going to come and be a big part of our group in his senior year. And he was excited. And he, again, was one of those kids that had a big personality and was a kind of an outgoing guy in the room. So for the season opener, we thought there probably wasn't a better guy than him to do that. And it worked out good that State Champs was there as well. But he was awesome, and it was something that he did take pride in it, and getting our group ready to go those last final minutes before we hit the ice. So it was pretty cool that it took off and got as big as it did. But again, it's part of letting the kids kind of be themselves and show personality and have fun with it as well.
He is a guy. I ran into him at one of your games last year, and it's a perfect example. He said to me exactly what you just said. He said, "Man, I wish I played there longer. It was so much fun. What an atmosphere with all my friends, and I'll always come to these games." And another one of those guys, Coach, where this is why we do this show. We talk about the fun, we talk about the whys, and I'll let you give the reasons, but we also talk about guys that are able to continue playing beyond. And you've seen a few guys the last few years. Can you take a moment and talk about some of the guys that you either graduated or guys? I know in particular one from last year that have been able to move on, that have done exactly what we want to see at this level. Watch them move on to the next level.
Yeah, I think, we're starting to have success, not only as a program, but also putting kids in good positions to be successful at the next level. And I think at the end of the day, if you talk to any of the coaches that are on our coaching staff, that's the biggest reason that we do what we do, is to hopefully have players that get to go have the experiences and opportunities that we were lucky enough to have along the way. So, it kind of started, you talk about Ryan Lemker. He was a guy that was given an opportunity to go play at the Metro Jets and had a ton of success. Blake Botterill off that team. We had a ton of kids go get opportunities to play ACHA hockey throughout the state of Michigan. Our captain from 2 years ago, Devin Collis, plays at Western Michigan. So we had a bunch of guys start to take those steps. And then I think this year we had two guys move on from our team to really high-end programs. One, Evan Adams, ended up in the North American League with Shreveport. And again, he's a guy that went down there and made a team out of camp, which is a great story and kind of a testament to a kid that was willing to work for it. But was also, I've gotten texts from him. He felt prepared when he went there and he felt like he fit in. And, he had success at Team Michigan at the end of the year, and it kind of snowballed into that. And then Ronnie Wade left this year, gave up his senior year at Clarkston to go play in the NCDC in Idaho Falls. And it was another situation where it was an unbelievable fit for him. They thought very highly of him. They were going to give him a ton of opportunity, but again, he was another guy that when he asked us, we felt he was ready to make that step.
Anybody who follows this entity known as high school hockey knows the names of those two players. I mean, those are two incredibly dynamic players, fun to watch. I wish them nothing but the best. And again, the collective, we all love to see guys move on. But at the same time, there are two pretty big holes looking ahead to this season. And I think it's a testament to your program now, and you can speak to this. Hey, you know what? You guys have proven that the Clarkston Wolves are a viable option for anybody. Is this a next man up type of scenario for you guys?
Yeah, we do have guys that I believe will step into those roles. Obviously, I think when you graduate any players or high-end, high-caliber players, like, you're never going to replace them, right? Every player is a little bit different, fills a little bit different role, and I think that the dynamic of every team is different every year. But we have guys on our roster this year that are 3 and 4 year players for us that we expect will step in and fill those voids. They're probably excited to do it. They're itching, and I think that it has become part of our program where it is next man up, and every year we have a new guy come onto the scene and have a big year. And we do return a lot, and like I said, we return a lot of guys this year that are 3 and 4 year guys for us that we expect to step into big roles, and as well as we added some new pieces, some younger pieces. So we're excited about it. I think it's what we talk about right from the start of this show is that consistency and building teams every year, and every team's going to look a little bit different, but we're starting to have, good kids come in every year and again, fill those voids that you talk about.
I love hearing that. Once again, our guest tonight here on the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association Proven Path, the head man at Clarkston, Nathan Bryer. Coach, before we talk about hockey in Clarkston and the OAA, let's take a step back for people that aren't aware of your background. You're a guy that knows a little something about moving on to the NAL and even playing some college hockey as well. Tell people about your background and how you ended up as the head man at Clarkston after your playing career was over.
Yeah, so I'm from Clarkston. I went to Clarkston High School. I didn't play for the Clarkston program. I played for other youth programs around the area. I was lucky enough to graduate high school with a commitment to college, and I ended up going to the North American League for 3 years in Corpus Christi, and learned a lot, right? And played for two different really, really high-end coaches down there. And then went and played college hockey for a little bit, and again learned from other coaches. And I think, we had a new coach there that I grew close to and learned a lot from, and liked the way that he did things. I ended up at Clarkston. It was kind of like I fell into it. I knew I wanted to stay around the game. I didn't know in what capacity, and I was young, and I did want to start and be an assistant coach and get my feet wet a little bit. And through some contacts from me going to Clarkston, and I knew the athletic director here a little bit, and he kind of wanted a fresh face and someone that was willing to put the time in and put a coaching staff together that could again put Clarkston hockey in a position to compete every year. I think it's unrealistic to say you're going to win it every year, but to put yourself in a position to compete and be a high caliber program and become a little bit of a destination. I think in this area in Oakland County, like there's so many good hockey players, and there's been a lot of good hockey players for a lot of years. And a lot of those guys played AAA and travel. And I think we're starting to see, because of the product and the caliber of programs in this area, those kids are starting to play high school hockey. And I think that's the biggest thing for us, again, moving forward and having that consistency as a program, is we're starting to get those kids. We're not the backup plan. We're the destination now.
I love hearing that. One of my favorite quotes, I heard a coach say it. I don't know if he wants me to mention which coach it is, but he said, enjoy the journey. He always tells his guys to enjoy the journey. When it's done, if you can play, they'll find you, and they'll have the opportunity to, like you, go to the NAL, maybe to the USHL, on to college, et cetera, et cetera. What do you tell a young player? What do you tell a young player who's maybe looking beyond his career at Clarkston or wherever the case may be? What would be your advice to that young man?
I think, it's important to stick, and be dedicated to what you want to do. I think they're going to have a lot of people tell you no. I think you're going to have a lot of bumps along the way. But to stay dedicated to it. And again, we talk about it at Clarkston a lot, but there's things that are bigger than the game, and being a good person and being dedicated to your athletics, or your academics as well. Those things make you a total package, and that is very enticing for kids that want to move on and go down that road.
One of the things I've liked about what you guys have done the last few years is, and I want to ask you about this upcoming schedule, but anybody looks at your schedule, and it seems to me, Coach, you're one of those teams that say, where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to play? We'll play anybody. And almost as if on cue, one of the nicest guys I know, Coach Nugent at CC, just jumped in and said hello. Those games against Catholic Central the last couple years, and I'll tell you what, to hear the amount of CC people and parents talk about, well, that's a good hockey team. If you weren't at the game, and I was fortunate to be at one, the other one I couldn't make last year because we were up in Traverse City. But hey, listen, if you want to be the best, what better way to test yourself than playing a team like CC in their backyard? So talk about that scheduling aspect for you guys, because that's one thing I've noticed from afar. You guys are going, who do you want us to play? Where do you want us to go? We're ready to go.
Yeah, I think that was probably my biggest goal when I first got the job here. Is I wanted to be a team that played the best teams in the state every year. And I think we've over, obviously it's tough when you're not, again, I'm going to use your term, a usual suspect. Um, you know, but as you start to get onto the radar and have that success, then those doors and those opportunities open. And I think this year our schedule is pretty tough. It's we're playing a lot of top teams and a lot of high caliber programs. Obviously high school hockey every year is a little bit different just because you graduate guys and teams change, but we're playing the programs that historically have very, very high caliber teams. And I think it makes us better going into the playoffs. And I think that was probably one of our biggest problems early on when we would have to run into Heartland in regionals, is we didn't have the schedule that they did, and we weren't battle tested, and we weren't used to that pace. And now going into playoffs, we should be absolutely used to that pace. We're playing a lot of the top teams in the state again this year.
Nice to see Moth Eric jump in. He said, "Hey, Nathan, I have to get back out there and photograph some soccer, but you are now a usual suspect." I will definitely vouch for that. There's no doubt about it. Nathan Bryer, the head man at Clarkston, kindly joining us. I was joking with Coach Ossenmacher about this. I said, when are all those schedules coming up on the hub? The fan in me, forget the media member in me, the fan in me, I like planning my weeks out and saying, oh, I'm going to go here Tuesday, I'm going to go there Thursday, I'm going to go there on Saturday night. Tell us a little bit about your schedule, who you starting the season with. Are there some things that, has you excited about this schedule for you guys in 24-25?
Yes, there's a lot of things. So we open up with Marquette. So they come down early every year. I believe they're playing Brother Rice when they come down as well. So we open up with a tough Marquette team. They always play a heavy, high-paced game. Then we have Flint Powers the next week, who I think is going to be a contender this year. They were young last year, but they have a ton of skill and a ton of those high caliber players. Thanksgiving showcase again in Brighton. So Brighton, Heartland, us and Forest Hills Central will be in that one. In December, we have Catholic Central at USA Hockey again. So we'll get to, again, play the top guys in the state, which, again, I think makes us a battle-tested team. If you truly want to win a state championship, you're going to have to go through them, right? So it's nice to be able to play them and feel what that's like and get a chance to compete with them early in the year. And then I think we end our out-of-conference stuff at the end of December with Detroit Country Day. Again, who is a team that it doesn't matter always who their personnel is, they're going to be hard to play against. And they're going to play a style, and they're going to buy into what their coach wants to do. It's the same thing every year. And they are, again, they're a great test on our schedule. After the new year, we have Livonia, Stevenson, and Heartland. So we kind of go through our KLA, I'm going to call it our KLA schedule. Because then I think 2 weeks later we have Brighton. So get to play all those guys. And again, all three of those programs are again, they're contenders every year. All their coaches do great jobs rebuilding, and they are guys that they're programs that we strive to want to be as a public school, right? Because they found a way to be consistent every year. We're going to Traverse City for the North-South Showcase, which we're excited about this year. And then we'll be back in Trenton again. So obviously that's kind of the big one every year. And then at the end, we'll play Brother Rice and Howell. So before we go into our regional playoffs, we'll get to play those guys. So, and again, that's kind of what we talk about when we try to build a schedule that's going to put us in a lot of different positions. And, we'll be a little bit more battle tested going into regionals when you're going to have to beat those teams.
That's a great slate. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope they get those up on the hub real soon. Coach Ossenmacher, are you listening? We need all those schedules up there very soon. Nathan Bryer kindly joining us. You just brought up something interesting, and I think I'm going to pose this question to you. But Marquette, you know what Coach Garrow's bringing to the table. You know how his team's going to play. You're absolutely right about Flint Powers. I mean, honestly, one of my favorite guys there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Travis is fantastic. And, some of the teams that you mentioned, you know what they're going to bring to the table. What do you think Clarkston is in regards to their statement? The Clarkston Wolves are finish the blank.
I think we want to be a group that's hard to play against. And I think that no matter what your skill set is or what the makeup of your team is every year, that's got to be our identity. And we have to be hard to play against. And we have to be in good enough shape where we can do that for 51 minutes every time we step on the ice. And I also believe that has to be 20 guys pulling the rope in the same direction. I don't think it can be one or two guys that are really hard workers or even 10 guys that are really hard workers and want to buy into that identity. It's got to be all 20. And I do believe that the last 2 years, as we started to have success, we've had all 20 guys pulling the rope in the same direction. And I think that's when, again, no matter your skill set or your strengths and weaknesses of your group, I think good things will happen if you can get a group to buy into that.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you what, another one, I don't want to forget Frank and DCD. My gosh, Coach Novak, that'll be a dandy. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm so glad to hear you talk about some of these showcases. Coach Bryer, I have banged this drum so many times in the last 7 years, and I'm so happy to see it. Whether it be you guys doing it Thanksgiving weekend, we were up at North-South last year. It was phenomenal. I mean, I can't say enough about the show that Traverse City put on. And, of course, the granddaddy of them all, let's be honest, it is the best one down in Trenton. But the opportunity for the kids to play in some of these showcases, it's a win for everybody. It really is. You get to see some of the, teams that you might see down the road. You're playing tough competition. You're playing in front of great crowds. I still say we can do more around the state. Just a thought on the showcases and how they seem to be coming up every year. There just seem to be more and more.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the showcases. I think there's always a lot of buzz around the rink. Like you said, there's always great crowds. Even if the smallest one we're in is the Thanksgiving one at Brighton, but you get 4 teams in there. You're playing back-to-back games. People are staying and watching both games. Teams that are playing second are there for the first game. Teams that are playing first are watching who they're going to play the next day. There's a ton of buzz. Trenton is an obvious one. It's a packed barn. It doesn't matter if you play at 10 a.m. or 8:30 at night. There's always a ton of people there, and again, that buzz around the rink. We have not been to the Traverse City one. We were lucky enough to get accepted to that one this year, so we're excited. I've heard nothing but good things, and get a chance to play teams that we don't typically, or I shouldn't say we don't, but they're harder to schedule.
Right.
Get a chance to go up there and hopefully play a Upper Peninsula team or a West Side team, teams that aren't just in our backyard. So I'm a huge fan of them. I think all that aside, it's great exposure. There's always scouts at them. Like if you're a scout and you're a guy recruiting, it's a no-brainer because you can watch a lot of hockey in a short period of time. So I think the atmosphere and the buzz and the fun it creates, I think, is one thing, but I also believe that it's great exposure for our kids. So
can't put a price tag. You hear this time and time again, whether it be the teams from up north, whether it be the teams that go up to the UP. Can't put a price tag on the bonding as well, that you're the coming together of the team. You take that long bus ride, you're someplace a couple days or whatever. Boy, Coach, you can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah, that, and again, that's the whole, when you talk about the buzz at the rink, I think that's all part of it, right? The kids get to spend the weekend together, and it's, the guys that are coming from AAA and travel, they're used to those weekends where you're spending them and maybe giving up something that's going on in the hometown and get on the road and hang out with your teammates for a weekend. It's awesome for our kids. And I do believe it creates that tight-knit culture.
Nathan Bryer, the head man at Clarkston, kindly joining us. Once again, it's the proven path, thanks to our friends at the Michigan High School Coaches Association. Speaking of the coaches, Coach Hunter said, I'm bored. I need games. Coach Hunter, I'm with you. You know, in a month and a half, we're going to be raring to go, and we're all looking forward to seeing those schedules. Let's talk about your backyard. You know, we talked a lot about Clarkston, but I think the OAA, and I've had the privilege of being out there the last couple of years on Media Day, there are a lot of good hockey guys. I know that from having conversation, and you're starting to see this elsewhere as well, as word is starting to get out, you know, the caliber of play, not only all across the state, but the OAA itself. Just some thoughts on what you've seen over the OAA over the last couple of years.
So I'll start that with this, and then I'll get into the OAA. Is, you know, all of us get high caliber players, and we're starting to get those guys that make the jump from AAA and come play for high school programs. All high end players have the same thing in common. They want to play on the same team as high end guys, but they also want to compete against the other best players in the state. So I think, you know, in turn, it makes the OAA better as we all kind of evolve and our programs start to take steps and get those guys. It's, you know, it can't just be Clarkston. It can't just be Stony Creek or Birmingham. As we all get better and have higher caliber programs, it benefits all of us because top guys want to play against other top players. You know, all high-end players have that same trait about them if they have a high level of compete, and they want to play against those guys. So I think that's the biggest reason for the OAA starting to become a very deep league. And every year we have top teams. You know, I think about when we were starting to come onto the scene and go through those lumps early, like M1 and Birmingham were teams that had unbelievable years.
Yeah.
You know, and our kids, we always got up for those games and we wanted to play against them. In my very first year, Lake Orion, you know, I think it's a testament to all of us because it can't just be one or the other, right? It's got to be all of the teams in our area start to gain traction and have that consistency in getting top guys. And it benefits all of us. And we're starting to see that happen.
Yeah, it is a fun league, and I say this all the time. You can tell if a league's going to be successful by the passion of the people involved, and having the opportunity to talk to the coaches the last few years, it's onward and upward for the OAA as far as I'm concerned. Coach, whether it be in Clarkston, whether it be a kid watching, I don't know, in Brighton, in Livonia, in Trenton, all the way up in Munising. What would you tell a young man that's on the fence right now about maybe jumping in and playing for the local team, the local high school team? What would be your pitch as to why high school hockey?
I think there's nothing like playing for your community, and getting the opportunity on Fridays and Saturdays to play in front of your peers, that you get to walk the halls with every day. It's our kids have so much fun with it, and you know, we have great atmospheres at all of our games, home, away, even when we travel, like we talked about the showcases in Traverse City and Trenton, and Brighton. Everywhere we go, it's fun, right? And whether it's our student section or the away team student section, there's an atmosphere every night that I don't believe that you get in other paths in the state. So I think that is a huge part of it. You know, it's getting to represent your community and getting to represent your student body and having that sense of, you know, the logo on the front, it has meaning, right? And you're carrying more than just the 20 guys in the room, but you're carrying everybody with you. And, you know, the athletic director and the principal and the teachers, everyone's rooting for you. So I think that's the biggest thing.
You guys have been well represented on the road. I've seen you quite a few times, and Coach, I say this with respect, a loud, boisterous fan base. There's no doubt about that. A lot of students. I've seen a lot of students at the game. Obviously, the parents. It's a fun time all around, and I think that's what's made you guys not only the product on the ice, but to watch the fun that people are having in the stands. That's the kind of stuff that excites me and makes me say, hey, take a look at what Clarkston's doing. And, you know, there are some other places, but boy, oh boy, the fans certainly have embraced your success the last couple of years.
Yeah, Clarkston's an awesome town. It's a sports town. You know, if you've ever been to our football games, it's the same thing, and basketball. And, we have a great following, and we have diehard fans. And whether they have kids on the team or in athletics, or they're just local to Clarkston, and we have a great following. And again, that's something that when you go back to why would you play high school hockey, there's nothing like playing for that. And our kids enjoy it. And, it's a great atmosphere to play in front of.
You got an easy job. All you need to do is put in maybe the tape of the semifinal game last year. You don't have to say anything. I mean, that atmosphere was second to none. Our buddy Craig Peterson jumped in, and Petey, ever the journalist, he wants to put you on the spot. Who in the AAA puts the biggest scare into Clarkston this season? That's an interesting question. A lot of programs on the rise, a lot of talented players there, and I think the OAA. Maybe Coach is becoming like the KLA. I always say it, you take a night off in the KLA and it could result in a loss. And I think the OAA is quickly jumping into that territory as well.
I'll start it with, we haven't done anything yet, so I don't necessarily know we deserve the who's scaring us, because right now we're all 0-0 hockey teams, and you have to prove it every year. You don't just get it because of what you did last year. But I think you can talk about every program in the OAA this year. Obviously, I'm much more familiar with the Red Division, being Lake Orion, Stony Creek, M1, and Birmingham. And I think all of them have high caliber coaching staffs. I think all of them are bringing in a high caliber product in a group of players. I think you can talk about all four of those teams. I think, to answer the question, I don't necessarily know that there is like a juggernaut or a favorite this year. I think it's going to be a battle right down to the end with all five of us.
And you know what? Well said, and I agree with you. That's what's fun about it, is watching the guys and the passion and stuff. And I don't know, I'm not trying to make you blush. Who's going to be the next Clarkston? Because somebody out there now is looking at what you guys have done the last couple of years and saying, hey, it's our turn to do that. And that's the fun part about it. As I mentioned, my broadcast partner is not here tonight, so I'm gonna use his question. He was watching his son play for the Lindsay Muskies, but Mike is very fond of asking each and every week, Coach, if you could change one thing, if you'd like to see one thing change to improve the MHSAA product, to improve high school hockey, is there something that jumps to mind?
That's a good question. I have two things that I think would help our product. I think one, and again, I know these things aren't always feasible and they don't happen overnight, but I think they're conversations that we can start having. I would like to see our game count go up. I think the way that our athletes prepare and train now, they can handle a bigger workload and they can handle a longer season. When we talk about those kids that move on to the next level, you're going from 25 games to some leagues now you're going to play 60 games. So I think that's a big jump for our kids to have to make and get used to. And if we could increase it even by a little, to get a little bit closer to that number, our kids that move on might benefit from it. I think the second would be going into more of like a bracket or tournament style when we talk about our playoffs, kind of like the NCAA hockey does it, where they call them regions, but they don't really have anything to do with your geographic location. They're seeding them 1 through 16 or 1 through whatever it would be. And I'm sure that's a pretty common answer in talking to a lot of coaches, but I do believe that would, give us opportunity for those upsets and those Cinderella stories, as well as spread out the teams that do have success in the regular season. So we get a better product when we get down to USA hockey.
Yeah, you know what? I love having these conversations because one thing that I respect about Cody Inglis and the fine folks with the MHSAA is they listen. And you've seen some changes coming over the last few years, no doubt about that. Tip of the cap to the Coaches Association. But I've let my opinion be known in regards to that, Coach Bryer. I'm all for it. I think you can still have the Cinderella story that everybody loves, and it can happen organically. And I think that's the best part, is when it happens organically, when this team goes on a run and, oh my goodness, look, they beat this team and that team and this team and that team. That is the coolest thing to me. Coach, I do want to ask you about the OAA, and in regards to what are the chances of you guys coming up with your own type of showcase? How can we help bring that about? Have you guys talked about it? Have you thought about it? Because I think, the guys that really follow this sport, Petey is one of them. Shout out to Petey and my friends at the state champs. We kind of know that there's a lot of talent, and we know that it's going like this every year. But is that something you guys have talked about? Is that something I can, bring up perhaps at the OAA Media Day as well?
Yeah, it is something that we've had conversations about. We used to do the OAA Max Showcase. I think scheduling wise, it just didn't work out this year. I think we are a smaller league in terms of teams because we split into the red and the white. So it's tough to do like an internal showcase, so to speak. But I think we have had conversations, and we would like to maybe find another league that, again, produces high caliber teams and would give us good matchups, 1 through 5. And I think that would be a great opportunity for us to do a showcase and, like you said, create another one of those weekends that are just fun to be around.
Yeah.
So I think it'll happen. Obviously it's tough this late in the game because our schedules all get set pretty early in the summer. But I think it's something that we'll for sure continue to talk about, and hopefully, find another league that's comparable and would give us 5 really good hockey games.
Really looking forward to this season for a myriad of reasons, and certainly Clarkston hockey is one of them. It's been a blast watching you guys, Coach, as cheesy as it sounds, grow up in front of all our eyes. The team, hey, they really gave them a tough fight to be in a team that now gives everybody a tough fight, and certainly the best is yet to come. Continued success to you, continued success to your players as well. Can't wait for the season to start. A lot of games on that slate, and I urge people to check out Clarkston because they're making a name for themselves. I'll say it so he doesn't have to. They're making a name for themselves, and it's been fun watching that up close and personal the last couple of years. Coach, continued success to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having us on. We're excited for the season to get going. I'm sure everyone in the state right now is kind of in limbo, just waiting for November 14th. So we're excited. We're excited about our group. And again, I know I started the show with it, but thank you. And thank you for all that you do for high school hockey. I think when we talk about that product and making us a place and a destination that players want to come play, it's not just the coaches and the players, it's you guys, promoting and growing our game as well. So thank you for everything that you do and your time and dedication to it.
Appreciate it greatly, Coach. Look forward to seeing you again. I know I'll see you at the media day, but look forward to seeing you and the boys on the ice.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Coach Bryer kindly joining us, the head man at Clarkston. Certainly thank him. And when I use the term usual suspect, Clarkston is a perfect example. Hey, you know what? Oh, what a cute little story, right? People, wow, what's going on in Clarkston? And the next thing you know, they're winning games left and right and making runs. And I mean it when I say I think the best is yet to come. Really appreciate Coach Bryer. Most importantly, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching on your laptop, your phone, Facebook Live, X, YouTube, whatever the case may be. Until next week, my name is Sean Baligian, and we'll see you at the rink.
What the Puck with Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Always Pushing Forward by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.